All right, so we're live. Okay, sorry about the late start. I am 12 minutes over. My previous meeting raneth over. So welcome to Q&A Friday. Thomas Dimitrovich here, and we've got some good questions, I think, that we need to hit. They prepared a PowerPoint for me, which is kind of cool. So let's see what this works out to be like. Hopefully everybody has had a great week this week and is ready for the weekend. I know that I am. Hey, Nihad and Ryan Jackson, we are doing good here. I saw public input of yours, Ryan, and man, I couldn't agree with you. I couldn't disagree with you more. Public comment. Anyway, we got to chat about that one. It was on 110.16b. Good to see everybody out there. And let's see. Where are we at? Where am I at? I don't know. Look at this. They put together a PowerPoint. And am I at the first one? Okay, so right, I'm gonna just go straight, get straight to the point because it is Q&A Friday. How about the new UL update on SCCR of the air conditioner on? No, Ryan, they did not break 110.16b. They're pointing over, simply pointing to 70E. So, and the data that they had in there, the clearing time, the available fault current, and whatnot, does absolutely nothing. Actually, it puts the electrical worker in harm's way if they use that data for determining PPE. And you have to understand the line side propagation and why service equipment has such a high incident energy. If you marked service equipment, hey, Ali, if you mark service equipment, and you know what, I'll talk about this, but let's hit Q&A Friday. What I'll try to do is I just real quickly tried to set up MobiCam, Mobi1 Kenobi, and if I'll try to draw it out, Ryan, and see if I can help, we can talk about, because I think it's a really important discussion. How about the new UL update on SCCR of the air conditioner on the enclosure mount? Now, I'm not sure about this one. Let me open real quick. I don't know what, I'm not sure about the UL update, but I do know that there is a change on, I'm just going to throw this up. Watch this. Bam! Whoop, I didn't want to go there. Here we go. I didn't want to go there. I wanted to go. Hold on. I wanted to go to boom, this. So in my 110.10 presentation, hey, Ali, really good. Excellent. Thanks for being here. Excellent. Thank you for being here, buddy. On this session here, so that we're talking about marking of SCCR now. If you looked in the actually, I believe it was the 2017 code. No, yeah, it was the 2017 code in 440.4b. 440.4b, 440.4b, 440.4 Bravo. I was looking at the public comment report PDF, but it doesn't seem that NFPA had posted it yet. You know what, Nihad, I'm not sure about when that is going to be posted, but you can go out and see all of the public comments as a committee member. So check that out. Take a look at 210 and 220. I haven't looked at 220, but I looked at 210. 440.4b says, why did I say 440.4b? Multi-motor and combination 440. Multi-motor and combination load equipment shall be provided with a visible nameplate marked with the maker's mark, the rating, maximum rating for the branch circuit, short circuit, and ground fault protective device, and the short circuit current rating of the motor controller or industrial control panel. So this is the marking of SCCR. I think I know what he's talking about. So, okay. So I think I know what you're talking about. The new UL update on SCCR. And he might be talking about this. There is a effort, and I know it's in the 2023 cycle, and there might be an effort at the standard as well, and I'm not sure about that one. I'd have to double check to mark the short circuit current rating and required on the outside of the panel. There is actually in the 2023 code cycle a discussion about like an industrial control panel requiring the markings, certain markings on the outside of the panel, like SCCR, because what you don't want to do is require somebody to open the door, expose themselves to exposed energized parts when you can provide that information on the outside of the enclosure. I think that might be what Guru Morphe Theruvengadam. I don't know. That's the name. The name is right up there. The question's right over there. So I think that's what he's talking about. I'm not sure. I need some more info, but I know that. So here's what I know what's going on around air conditionings units. SCCR, the marking of the short circuit current rating is 440.4B. I know that for a fact. And then in 440.10b, in the National Electrical Code, in 440.10b, there's where motor controllers. Boy, my eyes are getting bad. Mine eyes are getting bad. 440.10b, documentation. When motor controllers or industrial control panels of multi-motor or combination load equipment are required to be marked with a short circuit current rating, the available fault current and the date the available fault current calculation was performed shall be documented and made available to those authorized to inspect, install, or maintain the installation. So there was no marking requirement for the available fault current, but there is a marking requirement for SCCR that's been in there. I don't think that's new. But I know the debate right now is should that be on the outside of the enclosure. So stay tuned for that. I don't know if that answers this question, but I tried. All right, let's take a look at the next one. This is JW. At 12640, coordinating breaker B1 with B6, when it's a delta primary, is coming up with the primary short circuit amps really as simple as dividing secondary amps by the reciprocal of the transformer turns ratio. Okay, meaning primary amps equals secondary amps times secondary volts. All right, so JW, but here's the important part. You have to pick the right voltages. Line to line, line to line. Don't make the mistake of taking a line to neutral voltage. Now remember, delta Y ground, what's he talking about? MobiCam. I'm going to use MobiCam. Hold on. Mobi 1 Kenobi. All right. Look at this. Look at this. This is cool. I got MobiCam working. And it's awkward though. Okay, so here is what JW is asking. When you have a delta Y transformer, what do you got? You have that. You have a delta primary and a Y secondary, right? And these are your coils. I like my artistic capabilities. And let's say 480, and this is 208, right? So I have, that don't look right. It's backwards. How do I flip this? MobiCam needs flipped. Let me go to transform. No. Let me go to transform and not rotate. Flip horizontal. No. I think that'll work. Let me do a transform and then rotate 180. Boom. There it is. Look at it. That's sweet. Okay, 480, line to line, 208, line to line. Let's make an assumption that this is 1,000 kVA. What's the current on the secondary? 1,000 kVA, 1,000. Divide that by 3, multiply that by square root of 3, divide that by 0.208, and that is 2775. Is that right? We good? So that's, are we asking questions? Okay, how do you size a load side reactor for a VFD? Woo, Nikolai Tesla in the house. That's going to go on the list, buddy, because I'm not going to do that one on the fly. All right, so we've got 2,775 amps on the secondary. Now, if I wanted to know what my primary full load amps was, let's just double check. 3 divide 3 square root times 0.208 divide 2775.7. So 2775.7. Now, if I take that times 208, divide that by 480, I should get 1202.8. So that means this is 1202.8 amps, full load amps. That's simply using 208 on the secondary and 480 on the primary. Now, what you got to be careful is sometimes, so if you think about this, this is 480. So across this coil is 480 volts, right? What is across that coil? It's not 208, it's 120. It's 208 divided by square root of 3, which is 120. So I have a 480 to 120, 3 individual 480 to 120 transformers. So you might say that my turns ratio is I should take the 2775.7 times 120, divide that by 480. And you would get the wrong number, because why would you get the wrong number? When you do that, if you took 2775.7, let's do it, 2775.7 times 120, divide that by 480, you'll get 693.925. What is that current? That current is actually in the delta. That current is 693.925. 693.925. So that's what's in the delta. That's not what's in the line current. So how do I get 693.925 converted over to the primary phase conductor? I have to multiply, because I'm in the delta, I multiply that by square root of 3. And if I take that, and this is the point at which the math is either going to confirm or tell you you've got a screw loose. 693.925 times the square root of 3 is 1201.9. 1201.9. And I will say the difference between 1201.9 and 1202.8 is rounding error, because I'm doing more math. So if I just said it's 1202, and again, it's all rounding error. So that is why taking the secondary to primary, if you just take line-to-line volts by line-to-line volts. So to get, I have a transformer, and it is a 1,000 kVA transformer, 480 to 120, 480 to 208, delta, Y ground. My full load amps on the secondary was 2775.7. To get primary full load amps, primary equals 2775.7 times 208 divided by 480. And that's all I need to do. So that gives me my conversion, and hopefully that helps JW. All right. So that's just a what we call a shortcut in the world of power systems. All right. So hopefully that helped on that one. Do any of the breakers Eaton makes still have the requirements to brace parallel conductors together with cotton rope when there's higher fault current capacities? I've seen that on at least some older devices, such as an 800 amp 480 volt breaker with 65 KAIC rating. All right, so I remember seeing this one, and this was, I'm not sure how long ago it was, but I do recall seeing that. I missed. Okay. Do any of the breakers Eaton makes still have the requirements? So I downloaded, let me get rid of this PowerPoint. I do believe, download a document. Where's it at? I downloaded, I got to go to PDF. I went to downloads. There it is. Low voltage, bada bing, bada boom. Bada bam. All right, so here we go. Look at this application paper, cable lashing. This is what JW is talking about. Thank God it's Friday. The technical question box closes for work stuff, and you get the whole weekend to resolve. Excellent. Thank you. Yay, unless you do the same thing and decide to ignore until Monday morning. No ignoring here. All right, so cable lashing. So remember what the question was. Do any of the breakers Eaton makes still have the requirements to brace parallel conductors together with cotton rope when there's higher fault current capacities? I've seen that on at least some older devices such as 800 amps. So boom, this is what he's talking about. Look at this. This is your cable lashing, and that doesn't look like cotton rope to me. It looks more like a nylon in Z formation. Cable lashing device. Look at this cable lashing. And let's take a look at this app note. So this says, this application note describes the details, function, and need for cable lashing in low voltage switchgear. During a fault, there's a high magnitude of current. And we know this. How do we know this? Oh, man, this is beautiful. And you know what? There is a video that I have that I use to, and I hope I can find, you know where it's at? It's in a PowerPoint. So hold on. Hold on. It is in a PowerPoint, and I use this video a lot, and I believe it is, I know where it's at. Documents, technical presentations, basics, SCCR. Why would I go to SCCR where I would think my video would be? It's because short circuit current rating is the ability to withstand the fault currents that would pass through it. And what's the challenge of a piece of equipment when you are trying to withstand fault currents that pass through it? The challenge is the magnetic forces due to fault current. So, and remember my example on this one. My example that I always use is the weightlifter example. I say, who are the players in this picture? From a short circuit current rating perspective, I've got the weightlifter who's right behind me here. He's the distribution equipment. The weights are the magnetic forces, and the spotter is your overcurrent protective device. So in this example, what you've got is the weights push down on the overcurrent on the equipment, and the overcurrent protective device is what relieves the pressure of the short circuit current. So when you think about what's happening during a short circuit, you have a fault current that's flowing, and when we calculate fault current, we're calculating an RMS value, meaning it's going to persist. We don't calculate the peak. We don't calculate an average. We calculate an RMS current. So in this example, to understand what does a current limiting device or what does a circuit breaker or fuse do for you to relieve the pressure in a power distribution system, we take a look at the peak value. That first half cycle during a short is the most damaging in a power distribution system. It has, think about it from a perspective of, you have a waveform that looks like this, right? Normal waveform. When you have a fault, the wave that your peak goes up, and the slope of the first half cycle goes from this, say, as an example, to this. My rate of change increases considerably, and what that does, it puts force on the power distribution system. And to demonstrate that, we use what we call the cable whip demonstration. So what we do is we set up a circuit in a lab. We got 90 foot of 2-watt conductor, 2 watts, kind of stiff, and you all know that. 45,000 amps of available fault current at the leading edge, but because of the impedance of the conductor, I got 26,000 amps flowing through the conductor, and I let the current flow for 1 cycle. And when you see this, it's going to help you understand why, in some cases, we will lash that, we'll do this. Why we do this. Okay, why we put these cable lashing devices on the cables. And this is why we do it. Now that is a lot of destructive forces. That shows you the magnetic forces that are being imposed on those conductors. They want to separate. And from a performance perspective of equipment, we've got to consider that, especially on some of these large breakers where I can let the fault current flow for, say, 30 cycles. Think about it. That's 1 cycle. And most of that force is placed on the conductor in that first half cycle. The heat that is generated is based upon the number of cycles that I let flow. But those magnetic forces we need to plan for, and that's why we brace. So this is the results. My peak let through was 48,000 amps. And that's for a 26,000 amps worth of fault current. My peak was 48,000 amps, and I let 15.7 million amps squared second. That's the heat. Now what we're going to do is we're going to show you the exact same setup with a 200 amp class RK1. Think about this, 26,000 amps. Where does a 200 amp class RK1 fuse cross 0.01 seconds? Around 10 times, somewhere in that ballpark. So around 2,000 amps. 26,000 is well into the current limiting region of the fuse. So what does that mean? That means that on this sine wave, I'm not letting 1 cycle through. Well, remember, what's 1 cycle? One cycle is right there. Okay? That is 1 cycle. What this 200 amp current limiting fuse is going to let through is less than a 1/4 cycle. It's going to reduce the peak, which reduces the magnetic forces. It's going to reduce the time, which removes the heat from the system. And let's see what that does for us. All right, let's see what that does. I can get this to change. There we go. Watch the tip right here. I'm going to show it again. I'm going to show that again. Watch the tip. So when I have a current limiting device in front of it, I relieve the pressure that's placed on the system due to those high fault currents. So, and what that does, if you think about what we're talking about when we talk about cable lashing, I can alleviate the amount of force that is what do they call that? That's placed on these conductors because I'm removing the fault current so fast. So current through a cable will generate a magnetic field, which we just saw in that demonstration. It will increase as the magnitude of current increases. That's that first half cycle is the doozy. And let's do this. Take a look. Resulting issues from unlatched cables. If the phase cables are not properly supported during a high current event, they may move violently around the gear. With this rapid movement, equipment failure can occur. Equipment failures conclude, but are not limited to, cables pulling out of their lugs, bending of cable lug adapters, breaking of the bus support materials, and damaging cable insulation. So in equipment, especially, let's say you are selectively coordinating your system, which we know in many cases the bolted fault current, and if you're using circuit breakers, right? Especially on circuit breakers. Remember, fuses, because of a 2-to-1 ratio, there's a very good chance I'm still in the current limiting region of the fuse, and I will relieve that pressure. But on my circuit breakers, I'm pushing the instantaneous way out there to the right, and I'm adding an intentional delay. For fault currents passing through the equipment, that's a lot of magnetic forces that I'm going to be permitting for downstream faults. Lashing your cables is a very well recommended thing to do because of those magnetic forces. Determining when cable lashing is needed. The lashing of cables is required for the following conditions. All 800 amp breakers, and he did mention that, regardless of system interrupting current, all breaker frames and systems with short circuit current ratings above 65,000 amps, and when lugs described in A or B below are not used. To ensure proper fault protection, the following cable lugs are used. A, compression crimp lugs, or B is mechanical screw lugs. And they talk about the sizes. Now, I'm sure that if you asked for lashing for your application, you can get that. I would follow manufacturer's instructions on the installation of those. And I think that is, but you have to understand, when you're adding those intentional delays, when those fault currents are very high, and when you have those high peak currents, and you're going to let those things flow because you're not reducing the peak, you're not in the current limiting region of an overcurrent protective device, magnetic forces can do a lot of damage in equipment. Which tells us when we have these high fault currents downstream, we may want to look at our system, look at the equipment before we start re-energizing. I mean, look at the issues that you could have. Cables pulling out of lugs, bending of cable lug adapters, breaking of bus support materials, and damaging cable insulation. All of these you can visually see. So an inspection before re-energization is probably a good, healthy thing to do. When you have these high, if you have a fault in your power distribution system, it's a major event anyway. And if you let that much energy through, you're going to see it. So before re-energizing, a maintenance decision, I think, is advisable to just go back up and take your one-line diagram, which I know because you are following this channel and you watch my presentations, you know that the available the one-line diagram is a critical piece of your maintenance program. It's a critical piece of your documentation for your power distribution system. You're going to look at that one-line diagram, see where that fault current came from, and inspect the lugs, inspect your lug adapters, inspect your bus support materials for any damage because of that fault. All right. And if you have questions, you can call 877-ETN-CARE, which I'm not good at this. 877. I wish they would put the number. Whoa, where's my phone? So that is ETN is 386. So 877-386-2222. 2273. 2273. All right. Or you can go to eaton.com/LVA and get more. And hopefully that helped answer that question. So I'm closing that. I got to find the link to that and I'll try to put it in my thing. All right. We got some dialogue going on here. Hold on. Wow. Friday, the technical, the lashing thing is interesting to me from an SCCR rating standpoint, code-wise. I've designed things that make me uncomfortable because I know the magnetic forces could easily rip the conductors out. Yeah, and you know what? There probably should be something in the National Electrical Code in this regard. I don't know where I'd put it or what the language would be, but I think it would not be out of line. Has always bothered me. A group DLO cables, they're necessarily grouped. I think if this ever happens, we're in trouble. EE's engineer during the week and worry on the weekends. Not a fun life. we engineer stuff on the week and we worry on the weekends. Oh man. You know what? My worries with my schedule, I'm always thinking about the phone call I didn't return, the email I got to get out, all of that jazz. But I feel you, brother. I feel you. Okay, let's take a look at the next question. Can you use up, over, down for higher fault current reduction at equipment that is rated 5KA? Would this be recognized by NEC 110.10? Up, over, and down. What do they mean by up, over, and down? Remember the Moby 1 Kenobi. All right, so remember the up, over, and down. Current let through, current limiting devices. Boy, that missed by a mile. Whenever you have a current limiting device, we as manufacturers have to publish our let through data. And what you'll typically see is a curve that looks like this. And this is what we call an A-B line. And then we'll do something like that. And I simplify, I jest. This is IRMS, and this is I peak. I'm going by memory. Hopefully I didn't screw that up. I know I've got people out there that will tell me when I screw it up. So IRMS versus I peak. And what we mean by up, over, down is we take the available fault current, say it's, 80,000 amps. And we go up. If we go straight up to the AB line, if I go all the way up to the AB line and go over, what that gives me there's my AC sine wave. What up to the AB line over and that gets me is this point right here, I peak. That is going up to the AB line and going over I peak. That's with no current limitation. Now, each one of these lines is, say, a current limiting device. I don't know, let's say it's a circuit breaker. And let's say that this is, a 200 amp, 400 amp, 800 amp. Okay, and this would be for a specific catalog number. When I go up and over, so if I go, say it's a 400 amp breaker, if I go up and then over, I get I peak 2. And what that does, remember my current limitation? I peak 2. So that tells me when I go up and over what my peak, my new peak is, how I've reduced the peak. When I go up and go over to the AB line, if I go up over to the AB line and back down again, I get a new RMS value. That's why they call it the up, over, and down. think about what we rate, say a busway, and say busway has a, without overcurrent protection, 5,000 amp short circuit current rating. And I have 80,000 amps of available fault current. If I go up, over, and down, if this new RMS value is less than 5,000 amps, then I can say I'm protecting that bus because the fuse is not letting as much RMS through. That makes sense. Now, I can do that on things like busway that aren't dynamic. If I'm into a industrial control panel, what they'll tell you is they don't want you to go up, over, and down. They want you to go up and over because the peak value obviously is going to be greater than the RMS value. And UL 508A is going to tell you, listen, I want you to go up and over and do an evaluation, not up, over, and down. They want you to use that peak. Why? The peak is you arguably we saw it. It's where the magnetic forces come from. So we'll go up and over instead of up, over, and down because the RMS will. If I go to the RMS, it will give you a lower number, right? Because what's RMS of this? There's my peak. My RMS is right there in the middle. So my root mean square, right? So 508A will make me use an up and over. But if I'm doing like a busway thing, I can go up, over, and down as long as it's not a UL 508A application. So the question was, can you use up, over, and down for higher fault current reduction at equipment that is rated 5KA? And I would say sometimes. If you have a circuit breaker in there or any type of dynamic device that's also going to be trying to part its contacts under those fault currents, then you can't. You can't use the up, over, or up, over, and down method. It's going to be done via a test method. But 110.10 would recognize when it's permitted to use an up, over, and down method. You just got to be careful in the application and make sure that you get a PE to stamp that drawing, in my opinion. It's not necessarily required by the code, but if I was an AHJ, an authority having jurisdiction, I'd want to see somebody who knows what they're doing and willing to put their legal stamp on the drawing to say, I own this and it's right. So that's how I would answer that one. Current limiting fuses, circuit breakers. Number one, can we use them? How about an EV charger and not UL testing for upstream Class J fuse? Ooh. How about an EV charger and not UL testing for upstream Class J fuse? I'd have to know what's in that EV charger. And that's a good question. I'd have to know what's in the EV charger. I know what it's listed to. But you could probably make an argument. Black box. It's a black box. I think JP, if you did some homework on what's inside that black box, and if you used up and over, it would be an easier sell than up, over, and down. But I'd have to know what's in that box. I really would. I would feel more comfortable knowing what's in that box to know whether or not I can do that. And maybe use UL 508A as my method. Very good question. I think I might think about that one a little bit more and maybe get a little more detailed later. Anyway, can we use them? So current limiting fuses and circuit breakers, can we use them to change the available fault? So it's the same topic. For selective coordination and incident energy for 70E. Ooh, and this aligns with Ryan Jackson. Ryan, I'm going to, if you're still out there, buddy, remember I mentioned 110.16b. Let's take a look. So let's talk about this one first. remember this whole concept of current limitation. If I can reduce the stress off a conductor, I sure as heck can reduce incident energy. What is incident energy all about? Current and time. The amount of time that I permit a fault to flow in a power distribution system. So if I think about a time current characteristic curve, and there's my TCC curve. Remember, I've got current and time. Current across the bottom, time up the side. So if my arcing current is here, and I'm clearing in 2 cycles, that is not current limiting, by the way. So this device would not be a current limiting device. What could be a current limiting device? Let's talk about a fuse. Current limiting, because we're talking current limiting. I picked the wrong device. Let's just do this for a fuse. Right, so this is 0.01 seconds. .01 seconds. If this is 0.01 seconds, remember, what is 1 cycle? .016 seconds. So if my arcing current is here, I am clearing faster than 0.01 seconds, which 1 cycle is 0.016. 1/2 cycle, 0.008. 1/4 cycle, 0.004. And these are all seconds. So once I get past this, if you drew what's under here, you would probably see something like this. And you would find that as you go higher in the current, the faster that fuse is going to get. You know what a fuse eats for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Never gains weight. The more of it, the more they love it. Current. So a current limiting device, it says, can we use them to change the available fault for selective coordination? I'm going to get to that one. How about incident energy? You don't change the available fault for incident energy. The available fault current is the available fault current. It will always be the available fault current. What you are doing is you're reducing the amount of time you are letting that fault current be present on the system. Hopefully that makes sense. So for this example, if my bolted fault current, if my arcing current is over in this region or higher, I'm going to be clearing that fault in its current limiting region. That means that arcing current, instead of seeing something that looks like this, I'm going to only see a little blip. I'm going to reduce the forces on the power distribution system, and I will reduce the incident energy. Now, I'll make sure I don't have a 1 o'clocker. Now I have, nope, I'm golden. Okay, so now, well, heck, it appears we're waiting in the wrong room. Waiting in the wrong room, David. Oh, crap, I did it again. I streamed to the wrong link. I forgot to change the link. You know why, David? I was on a NEMA call and it was running late. I was irritated. And I just hit the live button instead of thinking about it because I was already 12 minutes late. I apologize. Bada boom. I even sent an email out earlier. That just ticks me off. Anyway, that's what happens when you're live. Stuff like that happens. Welcome to the live program. Okay, so from a arc flash reduction, current limitation is phenomenal. It is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, I'm sorry, David. I put that email out and I sent the wrong link. Oh, well. Listen, give me an A for effort, an F for success. But there are times, usually industrial, that you don't care if the upstream breaker opens. You may appreciate it. Be happy the fuse is blue. Absolutely. So now let's talk about, so I can reduce incident energy because of the current limitation, the capability of that overcurrent device, because I'm going less than a quarter cycle. And if you think about arc flash, let's do this. I have a spreadsheet, which is out there on my website, right? If you are registered and you've asked for to be a gold member, there is, let me go to my arc flash, because I have a spreadsheet that we can use to look at what current limitation can do to, where is arcing, NFPA 2021. It's in my documents. Arc flash. Where's it at? Design, arc flash. IEEE, doggone it, 1584. That whole email thing just threw me off. I'm ticked. I screwed that up. Thanks, Al. I appreciate the words of support. All right, so let's take a look at this. PowerPoint. Now this spreadsheet, this is a Powerline 3A. This tells me my dimensions. I'm at 480 volts, VCBB, construction. And let's just take 15,000 amps as an example. 0.01 seconds, which is not quite a half of a cycle. It's still, actually, 0.01 seconds. Yeah, 0.01 seconds is 0.008 is a half cycle, right? So it's still greater than a half cycle. But let's take a look at what time does. 0.01, 0.02, 0.03. My incident energy at 0.01 is 0.3 calories per centimeter squared. At 0.02, it's 0.61, and then it goes to 0.91, to 1.21, to 1.52. And I think I can, let's do this. If I come into this table, 0.01, I think I can change this. So what's the incident energy? Maximum arcing at 0.785, 0.785 at 10,000 amps, 0.785 at 10,000 amps, 0.01 seconds, 0.19, 0.19, 0.19. There it is, IE max right here. Calories per centimeter squared. What if I change this to 0.008? There it is, 0.15. So I went from at 0.01 seconds, let's go to 0.004. From 0.188 to 0.075. So I can reduce my incident energy considerably. Now, here's the issue. Now you might be sitting there going, whoopee ding ding, Tom. You went from 0.188 to 0.15. You're still nothing. But I'll tell you what, it means something to this guy and anybody who's standing in front of that arc. So I can reduce. Now, selective coordination. The power of a current limiting fuse, when I have two current limiting fuses in front of each other, or one downstream of another, this is where you get the ratio tables for fuses. Because the fuse can go so fast, for a fault current, as long as I maintain a 2-to-1 ratio, I know I can selectively coordinate the two fuses all the way up to their interrupting rating 200,000 amps. So that's the power of current limitation when it comes to fuses. When it comes to circuit breakers, because just the nature of the beast, with the contacts and all that good stuff, I don't get as much power out of that. And so the value of current limitation, I have to his question number 2, I would say no. There's a lot of value in current limitation, reducing incident energy. It does help you on selective coordination with fuses, but on circuit breakers, not so much. And circuit breakers, the current limiting, whether it's a current limiting fuse or a current limiting breaker, it will help you in reduction of energy. My type T fuses opened, and so did the upstream breaker. Expensive, yes, but yeah, the fault was only a dull thud, not explosive. Exactly. I'm proud of that. Expensive, but worth it. Yeah, you know what? And that's a very valid point, because here's what happens when an event like that occurs, and there was no damage. The pushback you get is, boy, look how much I have to replace those fuses, and they're expensive. But if they did not open, to your point, you would probably have had to replace equipment, or you could have killed somebody. So the incident energy reduction and the avoidance of replacing equipment or sending somebody to a hospital is worth that expense. Now, I mentioned this to Ryan earlier about the service entrance equipment. I'm going to Moby 1 Kenobi. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a service. Now, this is in response to 110.16b. And think about a service. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a transformer. And I'm going to draw a main overcurrent protected device and feeders. And that's my equipment. So this is service equipment. And on the primary of this is probably a utility fuse. Right? Now, when I calculate incident energy for this equipment, what do I base it on? Do I base my incident energy on the main overcurrent device in this equipment? It requires a label per an industry standard. The NEC is an industry standard, so complying with A satisfies B. It is a circular logic. Hold on. Let's go to, I'm glad you're online, because I want to look at this. I am going to, I got to pull up 110.16. So I'm going to bring up www.nfpa.org/70. Boom, chaka boom. Next edition, and I'm going to see view public comment. I don't know if it's available to everybody. I mean, you guys can check it out on your end, but can you go out there? 110.16. 110.16b. All right. B says, in other than dwelling units, in addition to the requirements in 110.16a, so in addition, so you can't serve this by 110.16a, and hopefully we can agree on that one. So in addition to 110.16a, a permanent arc flash label shall be field labeled or factory applied, which have a, well, no, that could be, to service equipment and feeder supplied equipment rated 1,000 amps or more. The arc flash label shall be in accordance with acceptable industry practice and include the date the label was applied. The label shall meet the requirements of 110.21b. So Ryan, you said your issue is that it requires a label per an industry standard. The NEC is an industry standard. I agree. So complying with, no, you can't comply with A because it says in addition to the requirements in A. The requirements in A are just a standard arc flash hazard. I mean, it's just a safety, right? Let's take a look at what A says. A says electrical equipment such as switchboards, switchgear, enclosed panel boards, industrial control panels, meter cycle enclosures, and motor control centers that is in other than dwelling units and is likely to require examination, adjustments, or blah, 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 blah. The marking shall meet the requirements. It says shall be field or factory marked to warn qualified persons of potential electric arc flash hazards. So, and B says in addition to A. Now, what the issue that I had with what you had submitted, you put back in nominal system voltage, available fault current at the service, the clearing time. So you went back to the 2020 code, and the problem I have, and I have always had with the existing language, is that, and if you what they were aligning this with, what the goal was. The goal was going to try to align with 130.7 Charlie 15A, the table method in 70E, right? And what does the table method in 70E require? To the type of equipment that you're working on, the maximum available fault current, which they want you to mark this equipment with. That was what was in one of the options, was in B. It says you have to mark it with available fault current. And then it says that a maximum of 0.03 second clearing time. Well, what is my clearing time of? Is it my clearing time of this device? Which it says, let's go back to what the language said. Let's take a look at what you were suggesting to put back in again. The clearing time of service overcurrent protective devices based on the available fault current. So that would be, this is my service overcurrent protective device. That has nothing to do with the incident energy in this panel. Absolutely nothing to do with it. And that's my problem. Must be in accordance with a standard. That can mean using a standard for which colors and symbols on the label. It doesn't require any info. Doesn't require any info. Hold on. In other than dwelling units, in addition to the requirements in A permanent arc flash label. So you're saying you don't know you're saying that the code is not clear on what an arc flash label is. An arc flash label. B tells me the label must be in accordance with a standard. It says an arc flash label. The arc flash label shall be in accordance with acceptable industry practice. And then they give you some examples. Any additional info. Doesn't require any additional info. Right. I mean, you just need an arc flash label. So what might help is a definition of what an arc flash label is, I guess is what you're saying. Is there a definition in 70E of what an arc flash label is? Let's take a look. Arc flash suit, arc flash hazard. There's no definition of an arc flash label. If I look, I could label it with the table method, right? Arc flash boundary, arc flash risk assessment. Equipment labeling. Electrical equipment shall in switchboards, panel boards, control meter circuits, and motor control centers that are other than dwelling units and are likely to require examination adjustment shall be marked with a label containing the following information. Nominal system voltage, arc flash boundary, at least one of the following. The method of calculating. So I think what your issue is, Ryan, that we don't know what an arc flash label is. And you might be right. You could be right. But putting in the clearing time, putting in the available fault current, going back to what was in 2020, I think puts the electrical worker at risk, in my opinion, if they follow that logic, because what they're going to do is they're going to put the clearing time of this service over current device. So what would that label tell you? Say the label is 20 Ka and the clearing time is 0.03 seconds. If I use the table method for a service entrance panel board, 20 Ka, 20 Ka and 0.03 seconds, and say it's 480 volts, 0.03 seconds, I would be in a PPE category 2, which puts me into an 8 cal outfit. But because my incident energy of this equipment is based upon the clearing time of that device, this could be 40 cal, it could be 100 cals, depends. Depends on how much fault current, depends on the size of that transformer. Because I have to rely on the upstream overcurrent protective device. And that wasn't clear in the 2020 code or earlier. 70E don't say, right? What does the label have to say? B does not tell me. No, B doesn't tell you, but it tells you that it has to be in accordance with acceptable industry practice. And there's an informational note that says NFPA 70E, standard of electricity working for acceptable industry practice for equipment labeling. So 70E 2021. ARG, I get into discussions with AHJs, but these things do, the AHJs say what they're talking about. Most always, no, I'm willing to listen. AHJs are not willing to talk. Ooh, ouch. So I put down the info required by A, and I used words, colors, and symbols in accordance with ANSI Z535. I mean B. No, you don't, Ryan. Remember, in addition to A, the language, it says, in addition to the requirements in A. So regardless of what you did up in A, it says in addition to A. So I don't agree with your using A as meeting B, because you can't. It says in addition to A. Puts an EE in a box, stinks. I want feedback. It's an ouch. You're the man. So, geez, I don't know. I respectfully disagree with the fact that you think that you can use A to serve B when B says in addition to A. That's what I think gets you out of A. Can't use A, and A is not an arc flash label. Look at the label, what it says. It just says marked to warn qualified persons of potential arc flash hazards. It's not an arc flash label. It's a warning label. Anyhow, that's all I have to say about that. It is 1:15. Can I do another one? I can. I think we can do this next one. Let's do this one. Ready? Go. How does a current limiting fuse constructed? How is a current limiting fuse constructed? So that it works faster than a single element fuse. How does a current limiting breaker constructed so that it works faster than a standard breaker? Ooh, good questions. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do for that one. I am going to go to my documents, technical presentations, distribution equipment, and I'm going to go to fuse. The fuse is on fire. All right, so current limiting capability of a fuse. How is it constructed? Bam. You see these pinch points? All of those little pinch points in there is what gives you the current limitation of that fuse. All of these little pinch points is how we're constructing the fuse. This gives you your overload. That is your time delay. But all of these little pinch points, these small volumes of metal, the vaporized. So you got all these little points looking through, and they explode. The sand turns into glass. It's a really good insulator, isolates itself, and that is what gets you your current limiting. And there's what it looks like. Look at that. Oh, and I do have, where's it at? Hold on, ladies and germs. I gotta move MobiCam. And I have a spent fuse. Here it is. I'll show you what a spent fuse looks like with MobiCam. All right, so hold on. I'm gonna move MobiCam over here. Mobi One Kenobi. Where we get some light. This is what a spent fuse looks like. Look inside the element. You see that? That is literally what happens inside of a fuse. I'm going to move it up closer. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to focus this for you. Figure, camera, control, focus. Look at that. That is a spent fuse. You see that? That is what happens inside of a fuse when it is spent. All of those little pinch points are gone. The sand that was in there that is around those elements, that element has vaporized. And it is no longer hold on. I'm looking for something in particular. I don't know what I did with it. Oops. I don't know what I did with it. All right. Well, anyway, that is that's what a spent fuse looks like. And I know I had around here somewhere. Gummit. Trying to find my example. I have I've got a fuse element that is before it opens, and I don't know what I did with it. Find it, I would love to show it to you, but I don't have it. There it is. Found it. I thought it was in there. All right, so here is what a here is the before and after. This is the before. This is what that element looks like. You see, these pinch points are what gets you the current limitation. This is the overload, a little plunger that pulls out. And this is what it looks like afterwards. So there's the before and the after. So that's what gets you a current limiting device. All right, and that's basically what's going on there. All right, now for the circuit breaker. All right, so let's take a look at a circuit breaker. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close that. And let's go to circuit breakers. I'll show you how we get current limiting circuit breakers made. And it's all in the contacts. So, whoops, there we go. Contacts. So how we get the current limiting, think about the reverse loop design on a circuit breaker is what gives me that where the magnetic forces will blow those contacts apart and help me clear the fault. Instead of the standard linear design where you're going like this, you're curving it back on it. Well, I'm not even going to try it. You're curving it back on each other, and the magnetic forces blow those contacts apart. And you can see it in this next little video here. You see how this is curved back on itself, and it helps throw the contact apart, and it's in the arc extinguisher, which helps extinguish the arc. It divides and conquers. But that is a reverse loop right here. That's the reverse loop and how we get that done. And that's how we get current limiting breakers. So now you know how a current limiting fuse, what gets you a current limiting fuse. And now you know what gets you a current limiting circuit breaker. All right. Okay. So, and I gave you a little extra time. And we got Clayton Lima. Thank you for joining us, brother. Geese, explain what you mean rather than telling me what you reject. EE is tough work. Oh, yes, it is. We are online now in this link. Yes, we are, Clayton. We are online, but you're coming in at the tail end because I am just now going to start closing up LO Shoppos. We had a great discussion today. I enjoyed the discussion, and I'm going through the public comments. So go check out the public comments. And he says, we are online now in this link. I didn't understand YouTube. You didn't understand YouTube. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate it. Clayton, let me know where you're from, brother. Good chat. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate your and I love the discussion, and hopefully we can make 110.16b better. I share other link. Another great Q&A. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate your time, and I apologize for the wrong link. Gosh, oh Neds, I can't believe I did that. Brazil, excellent. Thanks for joining us from Brazil. Hopefully it's good weather in Brazil, and hopefully it finds you safe and sound and healthy, brother. Stay healthy. Alrighty, everybody. I am going to sign off. Remember to subscribe. Oh, look at this. Watch. Don't forget to subscribe. And check out my website, thomasdimitrovich.com. Subscribe over there as well. I'll send you the wrong links to my live streams so you know about it. God. Thought I was doing so good. Anyway, and go check out the latest changes, the public comments on the National Electrical Code. They are out there for your reading enjoyment. George, thanks for joining, George. And I will be online next week. Next week, oh, we got a powerhouse lineup next week. You know what we're talking next week? Wait. I'll tell you, next week, I've got my services guy in division on. Wait, not next. Yeah, next week. Modernization week. Next week is officially Modernization week. We're going to be talking about reconditioning equipment, refurbishing equipment, breakers, switchboards, switchgear, panel boards. I've got the individuals are going to be online live with me all week at 5 o'clock. I believe all week, 5 to 6 or 5 to 7. We'll probably do, I'm going to try to keep them to an hour, 5 to 6 if I can. But you know how we go. We just keep rolling. But it's going to be a powerhouse week of modernization. You're going to want to join in on that one. I'll get some notifications out. And this time, I'll get you the right links. Dadgummit. Happy weekend. Have a great weekend, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the thumbs up. And remember, if you're going to hit the thumbs down, you got to click it twice. Just saying. All right. I don't want you to screw that one up. So if you're going to hit thumbs down, you've got to hit it twice. And we will hopefully see you soon. Thank you, Clayton, for joining in from Brazil, and everybody else out there. And George and Chris Foland and all you guys. Ryan Jackson, thank you. Take care. Stay safe. Thanks for what you do for the electrical industry. Thanks for what you do for electrical safety. Stay safe and please stay healthy. Signing off. See you next week. I'm going to sign off. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Stay safe. God bless.